Hello, hello, hello. 54 minutes after the hour. Happy Friday, everybody. Carrie is back. Carrie, you got a new name, I see. Did you get banned, Carrie? Hope all is well. Angie, you said you'll be on Sunrise later next week with a blogging at the same time. Maybe a touch earlier in the morning, Angie. So, yeah, look for the notifications both days. Bruce says, I really miss the temps in the 70s and 80s. Yeah, I got to wait a while. It's going to be a while. They're all new names. All right, Carrie. All right. Oh, that's a good point, Carrie. They changed the handles. I didn't know they did that. So that makes sense because everybody's name looks a little odd here today. So I'm seeing everybody's username, but I don't see your actual name like I used to see. So I apologize if I don't know who you are. All right, let's get right to it. I hope you guys are doing well. It is Friday. I'm wave meteorologist Brian Good. Welcome to SnowTALK, where we look at the long-term pattern. By the way, the blog this week, SnowTALK turns 25 years. 25 years I've been doing this blog. It's changed a lot in technology, but the format has basically been the same. So if you guys started down in WBKL in Bowling Green, so if you guys are remembering those days when I was on down there, that's when it first started. All right, so now do we have snow to talk about? That's what everyone's wanting to know, right? That's what I feel like the topic has been for a while, but certainly this week. Let's get right into the snowboard. And let me tell you that first off, I did eliminate the Thanksgiving period right now into the holiday weekend next weekend. I don't think it's enough right now to be on the board. I think we do have a chance at some precipitation. What form it'll be in now is a little bit more in question than it has been all week based on the trends. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How do the trends look? I'll explain where that is going on paper anyway. Still, as we get into December, the next system after that, I feel very confident on that one being rain to snow, which usually is not a huge ordeal, but it should be the last rain to snow setup. I think we'll end up with more of a wintry look for most of the future events after we get past the first week there of December. More on that coming up in just a few minutes. Let's get you out the door, though, and plan out your Friday. For those who are heading out for lunch here soon, or you got plans in general for the weekend, I know you want to know what is the outlook here. And yeah, it's the same camera image. I mean, I could have recorded this, 3 days ago and replayed it back, and you guys probably wouldn't notice a difference. It's the same stuff. Foggy, misty, rainy at times, and a bit cool and chilly out, right? Yeah, lovely Friday weather. It's Friday, so I hope that helps. 52 in Louisville, or at least a couple of degrees above yesterday at this time. 53 into Bardstown, 55 down to the south. I mean, it's nearly the same exact temperature map every day this week. Pretty remarkable. All right, there's the rain moving through. Steady rain across Indiana and Kentucky, just keeping everything's kind of sloppy out there across wave country today. Nothing too excessive showing up. Don't see any major woes there, but still the roads are slick just because of the wet road conditions. And we've already had some issues today on the roads with accidents. So as always the case, just pay extra attention. Don't be in too big of a hurry. But I know easier said than done when it comes to driving, especially in the Louisville Metro. You never know. But try to take it slow, allow plenty of time. All right, here's the game plan here, guys. This low pressure is just now showing up into Kansas, into Oklahoma. Notice a very obvious dry punch that is showing up here around the Ozarks, pushing in toward Jackson, Tennessee. That is the warmer flow, the warm sector that's going to be pushing in this afternoon. So we'll actually see the rain decreasing coverage, mainly for central and southern Kentucky. It's going to tilt on its axis here, become a little more east-west. So when that happens, Indiana, I don't know if you'll be able to get the full brunt of the warm and drier push that'll be punching in the next few hours here into the afternoon. So you may stay into the rainy, drizzly, relatively chilly setup for the remainder of this event will be for Indiana. But if you're near 64 and south, we should see a decrease. And not only the steadier rain, but the fog should improve as well with that warmer flow that will be kicking in. But right now, we're not quite there yet. And it may take another 6 hours to really see that warm sector get in. It also means that another 6 hours, it already be getting dark. So there's not a lot of room here for much in the way of heating. So the amount of warmth or fuel that we're going to get for this evening's chance for some rain and thunder will come in the form of really just the change in wind direction and the influx of moisture coming in that warm sector as that low rolls eastbound right over us tonight while you are asleep. It'll roll on by. But it should generate on the leading edge of that, somewhere on the front end of the low, should be a few downpours and maybe a couple of thunderstorms. I do not see anything to worry about on severe, but a couple of lightning strikes will be possible late tonight as this rolls on by, depending on how far north the warm front does indeed get as we head into this evening. All right, so there's the outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. They did add a marginal risk out for Tennessee last night, and about 2 hours ago, they moved it over the Kentucky border into southern Kentucky, all the way to the very small southern part of Adair. And that's fair. I mean, it's going to be a very modest warm sector, nothing to get too worked up about. But if you're going to get lightning and thunder, it will be obviously more pronounced on the southern side because you'll get to the warm sector faster than anyone else will. And as I mentioned, Indiana may not even get into it at all. So let's walk you through it. Here is Futurecast showing the current setup of the rain and showers rolling through. So far, the short-term data has done really well with this. We get into this afternoon, that warm sector punches in. So around 5, 6 p.m., that's when we should start to see some improvements on the steadier rain dialing back over central Kentucky, but again, continuing for Indiana. We get into the evening hours. There's where the warm sector is. Now, this particular model, the graph, may be too far north with the warm push. I think it's going to be near I-64 and south. I mean, it's close. I'm picking on the model. I don't need to pick on it. It probably has feelings, so I don't want to be rude. But near 64 and south, I think it's fair to get at least some scattered areas of downpours, lightning and thunder that'll roll across the Commonwealth. This is going to be a relatively late evening type of setup, too. It may take until 8, 9 o'clock, maybe even 10 in some cases to really light up on the radar. So around the midnight hour, some of you may actually hear some thunder or see some flashes out your window with some of the lightning as these roll on by. Again, I'm not overly worried about anything major with this at all, just an attention getter when it comes to lightning and maybe that rolling thunder you may hear as they race on by. Hopefully, though, the little break with that warm push of air, the warm sector, will at least get most of the touchdown Friday night games in without any concern about a lot of heavy rain or lightning at that time. So it'll be a close call on the timing of the this getting into the games themselves, whether or not the games will influence at some point by them. I can't rule that out, but I'm hoping at least the kickoffs will be able to get underway without any worries there. But we'll monitor that throughout the day on our newscast, I promise. That moves on by to the east, and as we get into tomorrow morning, the issue we got tomorrow is going to be really how much of a dragging of moisture, like a tail being dragged behind the system, will there exist. That will determine how quickly we can clear out tomorrow. This particular run is really slow. In fact, it doesn't even get to the point of getting to a partly sunny setup until late afternoon. Indiana and our areas really northwest section of Kentucky or west of 65 may end up with a sunnier afternoon compared to those of you south and east of Louisville. Like Bardstown, you may not get any sun tomorrow. It's going to be tough. You get to Frankfort, same story. But if you're in Corydon or you're in Paoli, you have a better chance to go partly cloudy compared to the rest of us. And that is important, not only determining how quickly we're going to try to warm up tomorrow, because we need the sun to help that out, right? But the ground's going to be wet from the rain now and the rain tonight. And without any sun hitting that exact same ground in the soil during the day tomorrow, by the time we clear the sky out tomorrow night, any area that still has a wet ground will then be the main candidate for fog to develop Saturday night into Sunday morning. If the sun can hit your yard in enough time Saturday afternoon and dry out your yard enough, it doesn't have to be completely dry, but just enough, that may limit any fog potential, again, for Indiana and west of 65. But I'm certainly seeing the signal grow more and more for fog, though, for areas south and east of Louisville. In fact, you see the clearing that happens, and then boom, there we go. There's the fog that fills in right in the area that experiences a clear sky Saturday night, but didn't have enough of a clearing during the day to dry the ground out. I hope that makes sense. So it's kind of a crossover point of how that works out, and we'll just see how the trends are. But no doubt, if you are cloudy still at 4 in the afternoon tomorrow and the ground's still wet outside, you are going to be a good candidate for fog on Sunday. If you've got a lot of sunshine by 12, 1 o'clock tomorrow, mainly for Indiana, then you should be in good shape. So just if you have travel plans early Sunday, just kind of a word of caution on that. And we'll just see how the trends evolve, because Saturday's clearing is obviously key on that. But a better chance to get some sun on Sunday. If there is fog around, it does take some time to break that up. The lower sun angle is fighting what we call the inversion in the area. So it takes a little bit of time to get that to break. So be patient with even clearing on Sunday. If there's fog in your area, in your neighborhood, it may take a bit of time for that to lift and disperse, but it should be an evolving process through the day. And overall, not a bad looking weekend. Could be worse. Not as nice as the 76 last Saturday, but that was a bonus. That was a bonus. Adam, good question. Was a chance for freezing fog? I did look at that. I don't see a strong enough signal right now. I think there's going to be enough insulation going on that by the time we try to clear, I don't think the drop's going to be significant enough to get down to the freezing mark. And even in this scenario, you would have to go to almost 28, at the very least, actually 29, but more likely 28 to 27 for a drop to really run into issues with freezing fog this early in the season. Right at 32, likely won't do it. It ought to be colder than that, and I just don't see a strong enough signal for that. So it would be a chilly fog, but likely not a freezing fog. All right, everyone good? Let's see. What are y'all talking about? Tailgating? Oh, what did you say, Joe? Tailgating this afternoon, evening, grilled steaks and having crab stuff twice. Baked potatoes for the tailgate. Wow. Joel, which game are you tailgating for here? Adam, you've been watching since 2010 on SnowTALK. Yeah, here at Wave. It's been 15 years of SnowTALK. You remember my days at the Weather Channel? Oh, my goodness. That's when I had my beard all the time, the Weather Channel. I remember Mike Bettis picking on me for that on Groundhog Day. Okay, you guys look good? All right. So let's get into the holiday week. This is going to feature still the active setup for early week with a system rolling in from Texas. This is a warm system, so this is rain we're talking about. Rain and thunder. It looks like Monday night into Tuesday will be the main days to target for the highest impacts for the holiday week. In our area, it'll be Monday into Tuesday that we will likely run into the bigger issues when it comes to the heaviest of the rain and some thunder. I do not see any concern on severe weather with this, but I do think there will be a period of active rain, especially for Tuesday morning's commute. But the last day of school is Tuesday, right? For a lot of schools for the holiday break. So if you're planning on leaving Tuesday, the morning looks rougher than the afternoon and evening will be. So I think if you're leaving Tuesday evening, it won't be too bad. You'll be fine. Just plan on some wet roads, but nothing too crazy there. If you're traveling by air, just be mindful that this front will be key on impacts eventually into Atlanta and certainly into the Northeast as we head into that Wednesday and for Thanksgiving itself. Not enough to cause any mess of cancellations or anything, but they certainly do in poor visibility like we've had today with the fog. They have to space the planes out. They can't have them all tightly packed to get landings and takeoffs in quickly. They have to space them out for safety. So because of that, that causes a lot of delays and a backup. So be prepared for that. That wouldn't surprise me. That could be an issue with so many travelers for Wednesday into even early Thanksgiving. Otherwise, no big systems causing a huge headache this year for the travel. Just your typical systems of rain and a little bit of snow in the Great Lakes, but nothing big. All right, we get into the Thanksgiving holiday. All right, here we go. All right, this is where we got the issue still with the piece of energy that tries to roll in from the plains and whether or not it will try to, I guess, technically handshake or phase with any type of low that will try to form here on the tail of the front that moves in Tuesday and Wednesday. Do we see anything form? Because the cold air is trying to push down. So what is the deal? Well, there's been an obvious trend that there's enough of a spacing going on with these different waves that are dropping in that the second one that rolls in from the Rockies is trending slow enough that it will try to get more of a south wind involved as we head into later Black Friday into that Saturday. So the holiday weekend, the core of it, just after Thanksgiving. Right now, I'm thinking Thanksgiving is going to be fine in the 40s. You get into the holiday weekend. Now we got to watch and see what happens with this energy. But that's slowing down. Now it's developing its own frontal system. And versus being just a little vort or a little clipper, now it's trying to grow some legs. And with it trying to do that, now you start to develop all the characteristics of a typical, what we call a mid-latitude cyclone. You develop your snow, you develop your warm front, and you got your cold front with rain and some thunder. All those elements start to get interjected into the storyline now for the holiday weekend. So, yeah, interesting little change here. If this indeed holds, that would completely flip the script, if you will, on a colder setup. It will be chilly, but from a sub-freezing day, which is what the data was really screaming for a while, as you'll see in a second, and to a setup that's going to feature more of a maybe rain and maybe some thunder getting involved somewhere in the Ohio Valley. It's quite interesting. You don't have to travel far, though. I mean, I do think the temperature gradient is going to be very stout with this system, so we'll have to keep an eye on Illinois into Ohio for maybe some wintry impacts there. But I think right now it's still, as I love to say, it needs more time in the oven. It really does, because this is still a pattern that the models are just not latched onto very well here. A lot of issues with this. As it continues to evolve, then we get into another system, which will get us into the first week of December. And that's really the system here that will start some of the fun and games as we head into the new month ahead. More on that in the longer term discussion in just a second here. Let me get into the Euro ensembles, where it tries to place the low pressures for Black Friday into that Saturday. Yeah, there's still some hints, so I can't remove the chance of precipitation in general. We're going to keep it at 20% all the way through the holiday weekend. We've had that all week. We're going to keep it there. Now it's an issue of whether or not will it be a snowflake or a raindrop. We'll work on that. That's on us to figure out. Don't worry about it on your end, because I don't see anything that would cause any headaches for travelers right now. This is just more of an issue of nuisance planning right now to figure out how the holiday weekend will evolve. And for those that try to fly back or drive back on the second busiest travel day of the year, which is the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So we'll be monitoring that. All right. So there's where we stand on that particular system. The trends for the Euro have been interesting. I know this is kind of odd to look at. The top area is just your high temperatures here. Okay. And these are all the different model runs we've had over the past week and a half from the Euro. Each update is a line, and the colors just represent warm or cold, right? This is the most recent, is the bottom line here. This is the most recent run, the very last one. But notice I highlighted the Thanksgiving holiday period, where it first sniffed it out. It went with 60s and 70s. Let me see if I can draw. Come on, this wand, it's driving me crazy. Okay, 60s and 70s at the very beginning, and then we got into a colder signal, which led to a lot of the cold forecasts. And now the last couple of runs, it's trying to come back up again at the very bottom row, back into a typical cool pattern, 40s and maybe even a few 50s that are showing up. So it's kind of done a bit of a roller coaster ride here on the model trends. You can see it's really struggling with how to handle Thanksgiving weekend. I think right now, though, it's fair to say that this is not looking to be an alarming setup. But again, I want to use some caution. I have seen this flip around many times before, where you're going to get a warming signal, then suddenly you revert back to a colder one. So don't adjust your plans or anything. Just know that we're going to keep a low end precipitation chance and keep checking back in to see how that evolves as we head through the holiday weekend. Looking at the matrix, by the way, interestingly enough, the same model still is trying to hint that there could be some snow for Thanksgiving holiday. The ensemble members, yeah, not as filled in as it was, but it's only missing a few. But more importantly, it's a very weak signal. All right, these are not big amounts by any stretch. This is very, very minor on the snow part. So I think it's struggling with what to do on the temperature profile. So that's why I said it's probably not done yet settling on the exact warm versus cool idea yet for the holiday weekend. I think it's still fair to say that either are possible. And this also means that either very light rain or very light snow will indeed be possible. So stay tuned. We're going to watch this. Carson, of course, I have updates throughout the weekend. I'll be back next week. And it'll be interesting to see how this evolves for the holiday. There's been so much a buzz about this, especially on social media, right? So I think it's going to be interesting to watch how that all turns out. We get into December. Yeah, you start to see some hints. But again, that's going to be a rain to snow setup. So don't pay attention to those later little signal noise there into the end. All right, here's the latest long-term Euro that came out for December. We're still on track. I mean, the stratosphere is warming right now. It's in the process of trying to transfer down to the lower layers of the atmosphere. As I mentioned before, this takes about 10 to 15 days to see the end result of that. So for snow lovers out there, you're going to have to be patient. Very, very patient. I know it's a lot to ask for snow lovers, but you're going to have to be in this setup. It's going to take some time to evolve. Okay. So you're going to see a lot of hints at this at times, but until we say this is going to be locked in, it's coming, don't bet on it yet on an exact time period. For an example, this is the outlook for early December on the left. This is the outlook toward late December, including Christmas. You can see the trend finally builds the cold up into Canada, and then we see it get pulled down as we evolve into mid to late December. So, I mean, that's a big delay from what is happening right now and the other layers of the atmosphere. So that's typical too, to see that delay. So that's the reason why we got to go slow with this, and don't get too heartbroken when you see these cold spells show up and they get yanked away in the next model run. That is normal. That is completely normal. And looking at the polar vortex itself as we evolve into December, again, it's in the process of weakening now. We'll see temperatures soon to be crashing much more into Canada and the Hudson Bay area, and we should be able to see an obvious dip. I think it's going to focus into Canada, south and east, or actually south and west of Hudson Bay, northern United States, Great Lakes, New England, Nova Scotia area. That whole box looks to be where this will likely focus for the core of the cold into December. We will likely be on the southern side of that, which if you want snow, that's where you want to be. You don't want this box to be centered over Illinois because then it's cold and dry. So if it's centered in the southeast side here of Canada, it could get interesting around here into December. And that's about all I can say because I don't have anything to show you other than that. Here is the matrix, in case you're wondering. I know, where's Cameron in here? I haven't seen his comment yet. This is the outlook on snow potential. It is a noisy signal as we head into December, especially mid to late December. You see a lot more of that filling in. So could we get a white Christmas this year? I think someone asked me what if I felt the odds were higher for white Christmas this year than normal. And I think it's fair to say yes. I think the odds are higher than normal. How much higher? I will let you know. But I do think they are higher. Okay, let me get into the 10-day and get to some of your questions. Here we go with, again, 61 will be tonight. Very odd setup tonight. Temperatures will actually rise in the 8 to 11 o'clock window tonight as that warm sector pushes in. We'll see a few degrees rise, a bit warmer too in our southern counties. Could even get close to 70. Indiana, unfortunately, yeah, will likely be on the cooler end. We get into Saturday and Sunday. I mentioned the fog issues we'll have in clouds for both days that we'll be tracking. Otherwise, we've got the active setup for Monday night and Tuesday. And we'll just go with the mainly cloudy overcast period for the holiday weekend. And we'll keep temperatures generally in the 40s. So it'll be chilly. It will be windy. So even though you're seeing 40s, it will feel like 30 to 35 much of the time. So you'll still need those heavy winter coats to do that shopping for the holiday weekend there. There you go. Would you say, Les? I like mid to late December. Yeah, the MJA forecast is going to go to phase 8, which I know a lot of people are like, what does that mean? It's very hard to explain even on a blog, but I didn't go into detail on that. But yeah, it is forecast to go to a phase 8, but that would be in the first week of December. It hits that phase. Typically, there is a delay of about 10 days on that one as well. So mid to late December continues to show up as the time period that if you really want to see the end result of what is happening with all the buzz about the stratospheric warming event and everything else, the polar vortex, you would see it then, but not much really until then. It would be focused more into the Western United States and the Rockies in the short term. Adam, your snow guess is Christmas Eve. Mine's Christmas Day. Mine's Christmas Day. So we'll see. I think Carson's got, I know Carson's probably watching. Say hi, Carson, if you're watching. I think Carson's got mid-December. He got it last year. He may be close. He may be close. Otherwise, I think it's myself, Tawana, and Kevin that are a little later this year. Carrie says, it won't snow an inch until January 3rd. Tawana's guess is, I think, January 3rd, actually, Carrie. Oh, the temps don't continue to moderate. I was looking forward to some real cold. Yeah, David, this is going to be a modified cold attack for the Thanksgiving holiday. You don't have the snowpack built up yet. Remember, that's key. You got to build that snowpack into the Great Lakes, into the Midwest. Then you get into the really true cold attacks. It's going to be modified cold, so we'll see an improvement compared to what areas north. We'll see, but still, it's going to be chilly. It'll be enough to be festive for sure. But to what level yet, I don't know. Tina's going to Disney on a Monday. Oh, nice. Well, have fun. It'll be quite warm ahead of that front for early in the week. So you may get into the 80s, in fact, at Disney there. Like you likely will. Let's see. Les went December 9th. All right. Dan's December 23rd. We'll see. Angie's the 15th. Lisa had December 20th. All right. So, yeah, the snow contest is still active. No one's got it yet. Okay, everyone's good? I think so. I'm sorry that it's not as exciting as you want it to be, snow lovers, right now. But the whole goal of this is to talk about the players that are on the field, as we talked about. This is the storyline behind the scenes of what we're looking at on how things are going to trend as we get into December. And it still looks interesting for winter weather lovers. But as far as the next 10 days go, it's more about rain and thunderstorms that we're talking about, and some cooler weather. We could get some snowflakes out of the holiday weekend. I'm not ruling that out, to be clear. But I do not see a snowstorm right now. I do not see any signal for that anywhere in the data that makes sense right now. I think a more modified version of that is a little more likely. All right, guys. You guys have a good rest of not only today, but have a good weekend. And we got a busy week next week, right? So make sure to tune in for all of our shows as we end this weekend and next week as we get you to the travel period and for Thanksgiving as well. And we'll keep you updated. We'll take it one day at a time. It's very important you keep checking back, because the forecast, I'm willing to guarantee you, especially for the holiday weekend, will slowly continue to change and evolve as we get more data, especially after the first of the week system rolls by. That's kind of one of the key pieces that's missing here, is how does that Monday, Tuesday system evolve? That really will answer a lot of our questions for the end portion of the 10-day. All right, I'll stop rambling. You guys take care. I'll be back at 11 a.m. on midday.